Okay, we're live. Thanks for coming. I am the real_G Warner on Twitter. Go hit the follow button. I'm going to go through the midweek soccer slate across Europe, including the French Coupe de la Ligue, also English Premier League and La Liga, which is playing a full slate as they're trying to wrap their season up. I make all my lines beforehand, but look at them first time live on video, hopefully to everyone's enjoyment. And then I'm going to go through each match and try to eventually find some winners. And as always, I start in England. So without further ado, let's go there. Okay, so Tuesday, May 11th, I'm recording this Monday, May 10th in the United States, but Tuesday, May 11th, we have Manchester United hosting Leicester. Currently, United giving a quarter of a goal with all the juice on the Leicester side. So Leicester played earlier than everyone else did this week, but played is probably an overstatement, as I'm not sure anybody could play as poorly as they did, falling behind 4-0 to Newcastle, who has really been unable to score for weeks, months, the entire season. Pretty disappointing. They did have a late scratch to Johnny Evans in center back. And what they tried to do was move one of their wing backs or left back into a center back role, and he was all over the place. Castagna, I believe, I'm not sure that he deserves a ton of blame because that seems to be a coaching thing, which is surprising for Brendan Rodgers to screw that up as much as he did. But ultimately, didn't go well. 4-0 later, got a couple back and made the score look a little bit better, added some makeup to cover the acne. But ultimately, a pretty awful performance amongst a group of awful performances by Leicester City. They do have the FA Cup final, which is coming up, which they might have some focus on. But after missing out on Champions League football last season because they collapsed on the home stretch, really, I would think that they'd be taking these matches a lot more seriously. And maybe the nerves are getting them, the pressure. I'm not sure what to call it, but ultimately it was a bad scene at the end of last season after the lockdown project restart. It's looking like the same exact thing where the team just looks like it's out of gas. So seeing Leicester as a quarter goal underdog at Manchester United seems really surprising to me. United certainly has less rest here. Have the Europa League final that they're interested in playing in. I think everyone wants a trophy and they made it this far. But I'm not sure that Leicester's been playing anywhere near good enough to be worth putting any money behind. So as a quarter goal underdog with all the juice on their side, if this ends up falling to pick 'em, it's going to be really hard not to back Manchester United, assuming that their lineup is full. Now, United has to play 3 matches. They have Liverpool coming up after this Leicester match, so it's very possible that that this line is expecting a lot of rotation. Bruno Fernandes maybe not playing, and others. But ultimately, if this one falls to pick 'em, the bench of Manchester United is still so strong, maybe not as strong as in years past, because the ownership just bleeds money or takes money out of the club and doesn't put it back in. But still, based on Leicester's form, I don't know how you could consider backing them here, even with a plus sign in front of them. Next on Tuesday is Southampton hosting Crystal Palace. Currently, Southampton giving half of a goal with all the juice in the Crystal Palace side. So it looks like this one might fall to a quarter. Southampton's had real trouble ever since starting the year off really well. Their depth has been tested and they've failed all those tests. And that's been a big problem for their team, who has really dropped precipitously from being, I think, third place, a decent chunk of the season finished, and now sit 14th or in that range, and have really no chance at the top half, which is disappointing, as that was a future that I played before the season that looked great and now is dead. With that said, as a quarter goal favorite, even if it falls to that point, using all current lines on betonline.com or .ag, whatever. It's hard for me to not want to be on the other side of Southampton as a favorite, because it's really hard to expect them to win matches or even score goals at this point. Certainly James Ward-Prowse is starting to take penalties, but it's like him on free kicks or him on penalties, as I mentioned, or potentially on corner kicks, feeding his big guys, which I think Vestergaard is potentially still suspended for this match. We'll have to check on that one. But Palace did what they were supposed to this past weekend with a victory over Sheffield United. Wasn't pretty, but they're never that pretty. Their defense is up and down, certainly hit or miss, with a lot of miss based on where they sit in the table. But Roy Hodgson has had a pretty good season for. They made a really good signing with Eze over the summer. He's maturing and getting better day by day. And ultimately, I think that I would expect Wilfried Zaha and some sort of combination of Benteke in the middle with Eze to be the more likely to score. So as an underdog, even on the road, no fans, or at least maybe there are fans coming here. I don't think so yet, but we'll see. But anyway, Southampton as a really problematic, troubled team and maybe dead team that's kind of on the beach. It's hard to want to back them as a favorite, especially with Crystal Palace, with a lot of players' contracts coming up and trying to find new places, new living arrangements, whatever you may have. So I think there still might be some good value playing Southampton. Next, Chelsea then host Arsenal, currently 3-quarter goal favorites. In a good good London rivalry. Arsenal really fighting to try to get into Europe after crashing out of the Europa League in semifinals with a road goal and literally only needing to win 1-0 and couldn't score against a Villarreal side that doesn't play great defense. Surprising, but a team in crisis that I'm not sure anyone wants to back in crisis. Chelsea, on the other hand, are getting closer and closer to safety or clinching that Champions League spot, and certainly still have the Champions League final up for grabs or on their schedule with Man City. Big win this past weekend, though through an hour it really didn't look good. And maybe if Kun Aguero scores that penalty and doesn't try a Panenka, they lose and are in real danger of missing out on Champions League. Maybe that might have happened. They survived, dodged that bullet, and now giving 3/4 of goal is a pretty big number for them. But Chelsea has been almost impregnable defensively. So Arsenal has made plenty of mistakes in the back ever since Tuchel has arrived. Chelsea's been hardly giving up any goals. I think more likely to clean sheet somebody than give up one, which is kind of incredible at this point. But as an underdog player, the only thing I can really consider here is Arsenal. And then it really makes me wonder, is it worth backing Arsenal here? You only lose half a unit if they lose by a single goal. But Arsenal's got a lot of pressure, a lot of things to play for. We'll be pushing forward as much as they can. Chelsea might sit back and try to sit on the counter. And that's the easiest time to score, I think. So certainly have some interest in Arsenal as an underdog, especially at this height. With Chelsea's focus on so many other things. But I think until Champions League is locked up in the domestic league, I think they're still going to give a pretty good effort. And all these players are trying like hell to be available for the Champions League finals. They want that on their CV for the rest of their life. Moving to Thursday, Aston Villa then host Everton. Currently pick 'em right now. Everton lost this match hosting Aston Villa in a rescheduled a couple of times, probably fixture from earlier in the season. Looked like a 1-1, but ended up Aston Villa scoring the second one to win on the road. And it's a battle of teams with really no offense. Aston Villa missing Jack Grealish, hasn't really created much for almost the entire season, really, since he's been out, or remainder of the season since his injury. Everton has shown that they really struggle because they have nobody to create. And then they have Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison basically stepping on each other's feet the whole time, or stepping on each other trying to score goals. Both not great passers, both really need the service that they don't have. Gudmundsson doesn't really, or Gylfi Sigurdsson, doesn't fit that role. James Rodriguez is always out of the lineup, it seems. So, but at a straight pickup, not much for me to do there, as there's nobody with a plus sign in front of them or catching any fraction of a goal. And then last one I'll cover in England before we go to another league is Manchester United again playing, and they're a quarter goal favorite to Liverpool. So Liverpool, clearly not the type of fixture schedule that United has had, which this will be the 5th match for United potentially in 2 weeks, if that's something, maybe 4 because of the postponement. Anyway, lots of matches. This one will certainly be circled on Manchester United's calendar as Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was playing as good of a lineup as he could, really, after Europa League's decimation of Roma before the match was postponed when this was initially supposed to go off. So should be a pretty strong lineup here, and I imagine the rotation, as reflected in that Leicester line, will come on Tuesday, not on Thursday, as Manchester United is really focused on this rivalry and trying to maybe keep their control of the rivalry by keeping Liverpool out of Champions League, because that would decimate them financially, or at least put them in a position where they probably can't keep players or maybe can't add like they would want to. Liverpool giving a quarter of a goal on the road, which changes things even more. Man, not a lot of love for Manchester United this next week, but it seems like there must be some expectation of people sitting. But to throw Manchester United at home as an underdog to Liverpool, considering their form, Liverpool has been really overrated all season. Market has really loved them and backed them and been wrong the entire season pretty much. They've won a couple games handily because they've got out into open spaces, but Manchester United, their best, kind of like a lot of teams in 2021, their best type of football is to sit back and try to counter and use their speed, which they have a ton of it. And based on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's lineup before this match was supposed to be played on its regularly scheduled day, I would think that they're resting on Tuesday and not on Thursday. So very interested in Manchester United here as a quarter goal underdog. Sorry for mixing that up at first, but that's a surprise to me for sure. Most of the juice on the Liverpool side. So as this keeps climbing, my interest in Manchester United grows, even if they are rotating for pretty much all of the matches this week, apparently. So that's England. I'll move to Spain for the next set. And then I actually don't see any French Coupe de la Ligue lines. So I'll leave that behind, as PSG should probably be a pretty big favorite. And I'm not even sure Monaco will be even bigger against a side I've never heard of before. So we'll go to Spain now. So let's refresh that tab, because clearly that didn't work the last time. Okay, so going for Tuesday's matches, 3 matches. Wednesday we have 4, and then Thursday 3 again, as La Liga is trying to rush to finish as quickly as possible. A lot of drama at the top of the league, trying to win the championship, the La Liga title. Also plenty at the relegation battle, and then even some fights for Europe as well. Osasuna hosts Cadiz, currently giving half of a goal. Cadiz is now safe. Osasuna, I think, looks pretty safe at this point. So 2 clubs that might be at the beach potentially, with not a lot to worry about. Cadiz have been on a great run of form, winning matches or drawing matches as big underdogs for what feels like months now, maybe at least 1 month, and currently getting half of a goal. Even with most of the juice on their side, if this falls to a quarter, I'm still interested in them. They know what they are. They sit back, basically forfeit possession to the other side. Osasuna has been an up and down defense this season, and they can create chances, but really struggle to finish them. Coming off a pretty miraculous draw where they equalized twice against Athletic Club after falling behind 1-0 after I think it was like 62 seconds or something like that. They probably feel a little bit better than they should on that result. Cadiz just keeps winning, really. And as an underdog against a side that isn't likely to score much, and Osasuna will see what they can actually do with possession. I don't have a huge amount of respect for their offense or belief in that they can do much with the ball, even having it more. I don't think that necessarily helps them that much. So Cadiz will probably be on my card. Currently half of a goal. That's a pretty nice number. I do want to be cautious about rotation with these sides that I don't have much to play for, though, but neither of these sides really do. Next, Elche hosting Alaves, currently pick'em, with most of the juice on the Alaves side. So Elche at home had a really tough red card 10 minutes into the match last week, and then fought like hell to stay in with Sociedad, and probably should have lost 1-0 to cash bettors tickets, but such is life. The late goal that came in the 92nd minute was a really nice start to my weekend, I'll put it that way. Alaves, they got a late equalizer to draw a match that they probably should have lost, gave up a brace to Levante, and Levante hadn't been really defending much at all, but got their second goal and got an important point. Elche are starting to run out of time here and likely need to win this match. I mean, they need to win every match they've had for a while, and I'm not sure they've been able to win anything. There's a little bit of a measure of safety between these clubs, but ultimately, and I think I'll probably bring that up, that might help this argument. But from where I sit right now, currently at Pick'em, there's not a whole lot for me to do based on I'm looking for an underdog to play. And though based on this current line where the juice sits, it might be that Elche becomes an underdog. So currently, Elche is 2 points behind with 3 matches to play. 2 points behind Alaves, 1 point behind safety. They're in a relegation position and clearly need some points. A draw here, they're still 2 points behind, and that's problematic with only 2 matches left to go. And I would think that Elche is probably going to have to start changing their strategy a little bit. Their remaining matches are Cadiz on the road on Sunday, and then last match of the year is at home hosting Athletic Club. Not a terrible run in. I mean, it's a 2 mid-table sides really after this relegation 6-pointer. So they're not dead with a draw here, but I think that would be a less than optimal result. Elche has not really been great offensively. They're one of the clubs that want to sit back and defend, play in a shell. Problem is that that's might have to change. They do have some offensive talent. Luca Boye has been pretty good. With the red card, they're missing a player, but Peremia, who gave a ton of whatever he had, was awesome. Probably man of the match if it had finished 0-0. He ended up speaking after the match and saying how brutal the kind of result and the red card were. On the Alaves side, they go to Elche for this match, then they host Granada, and then travel to Sevilla. So Sevilla, that'll be a tough match. Though Sevilla is not in the title race anymore, is safely in Champions League for next season. So that might be one of those on the beach sides that play a lot of young players. So that could be good for Alaves, as well as at home for Granada, who's going to not play a lot of defense, is going to try to score a bunch of goals and might give Alaves a chance to counter and try to win that match. So not a bad run in for them as well. I think mainly based on Sevilla not necessarily caring, but that's a really tough last match if they need to win it. So ultimately, I think we might see a more conservative game plan from Alaves, knowing that a draw here still keeps them 2 points ahead of Elche. Certainly, they'd want a victory, but a draw here would be would keep them safe from Elche at least that point. Still worried about Valladolid and Huisco, who are 1 and 2 points behind them. So nothing's really safe here. Certainly plenty of nerves and a lot of fight that needs to come from Alaves, but their third manager of the season has seemed to instill a fight in them, that, or at least playing a little bit more pragmatically or a little more intelligently, and that's been really good for them. It just depends if it keeps going to where this line ends up moving, but there's no point debating that now because this match will come up soon enough tomorrow afternoon. Next is in the nightcap, Levante hosting Barcelona. Currently, Levante a 2-goal underdog at home. Massive number, but Levante 9 points above relegation, nowhere near Europe. So, and really have not been playing well until they got 2 goals from the El Comandante this past weekend. And so they're in a position where there's not a lot to play for. Their backup goalkeeper is still pretty good, so that's not a huge downgrade, and he's been playing a little bit lately, so he should be pretty fresh, but also in decent form. Barcelona are now 2 points behind Atleti after drawing this weekend, which is a match they, I think, could have lost probably more likely than they could have won, but still the result was the result, 0-0, not great, and hadn't been goalless when those two played, I think, since 73. So it's been a long time, but they're in a position where they can still win the league. Their schedule is pretty easy. Road trip to Levante, who doesn't really care. Celta Vigo, who's maybe trying for Europe, but probably not doing too much there. And then at Eibar, who is bottom of the league. So that's a pretty good run-in for Barcelona, and I like their chances to even win the whole thing. They are going to have to catch Atleti 2 points behind, and also are behind Real Madrid, I think, with tiebreakers. So that's not great. But if they certainly got 9 points right available to them if they can get there. As a 2-goal favorite, though, that's a massive number. It's grown, and I've bet against them with Valladolid as a 2.25 goal favorite before. So this number, I'm not sure where it's going to go. Juice is very even right now between the two sides. Levante's had a lot of defensive troubles, though, and that's been a big issue for them, I think, throughout the season. And Barcelona is they've scored 80 goals, I think, this season. So most in the league by 19 more than Atleti, who's leading the whole thing. So if there's anybody that's possibly going to blow somebody out, it's Barcelona, and it's probably Barcelona against a very uneven defense. I believe this was a draw the first time these teams played, but thanks to I think it was a big turnover from Barcelona. I might be mixing that up, but ultimately Levante is a good side that I like, and I backed a lot this year for pretty good success. I'm not sure that they're a side that can hang with Barcelona, and once that first goal goes in, the second one comes from Barcelona, and they're really great at scoring late. But with a 2-goal spread, it's a pretty safe position where the late goal is likely not to kill you to make it 3. It's probably going to make it 4 or 5 or something like that. And Levante have shown that they can lose, I think, losing 5-1 to Villarreal just a couple match days ago. Moving to Wednesday, Sevilla hosts Valencia, currently giving a full goal. All the juice on Sevilla side is going to climb to 1.25. Decent performance against Real Madrid, sat back, didn't play with a striker, which I think messed with Real Madrid for like 20 minutes or so in a 90-minute match. If you can cut off 25% of it, great. I think this is a different challenge. Valencia relieved their manager, Jaime Gracia. He might have been gone in the season anyway, but they brought in a new face, and he got a really big win despite them not playing very well against Valladolid this weekend. Had a goal before halftime, right after halftime, and then a late one to win 3-0, and probably one of the most misleading score lines of the weekend. But Valencia here, as this climbs to 1.25, Sevilla's great at winning matches 1-0. Valencia has been playing a lot better. We're in a dogfight with Barcelona, scored 2 goals themselves, including a late one to actually get in the back door to cover in a 3-2 loss. They're in a position where their defense has been bad all season. It looks like it's getting better. It can't really get much worse, or couldn't. And I think it's better entering into next season. We'll see what happens with players moving around and such. But their midfield's been better. Soler is really good and has some outside of the box talent that not a lot of people can match in the world, and especially not in La Liga. And then Maxi Gomez was great. Now I wonder, with Valencia now pretty much locking up safety, now at 39 points ahead of Levante, similar situation, 9-point gap with 3 matches to play. I don't think any of those relegation sides are going to win all 3. So they're pretty much safe. I wonder about what they're really focusing on. Sevilla and Valencia, I'm not sure, is a huge rivalry. They're in a similar part of the country, in Andalusia, if my Spanish geography is okay. Sevilla with a 15-point lead on Sociedad for Champions Leagues. They're locked in. 6 back of champions of the league leader Atleti. So maybe they have some belief that they can still fight in that title race. I guess until they're out, they're thinking they're in it. I got to think that En-Nesyri or De Jong, or both, or one of them, probably En-Nesyri starts this match after not starting against Real Madrid, as they're going to be going for it and probably trying to score as many goals as possible. Definitely tried to do that and literally almost lost the match by giving Karim Benzema a one-on-one from past the half midfield, because I guess Jesus Navas came up trying to get the ball and didn't win it, but ended up getting a penalty thanks to a handball when it would have been a penalty at the other end. Crazy stretch, incredible. But ultimately, Valencia has been playing, I think, a lot more competitively than this line suggests. When it hits 1.25, that would be the side I'm interested in. Next is Celta de Vigo hosting Getafe. Currently, Celta giving 1/4 goal. Getafe with all the juice on their side. So it looks like if it's fallen to anything, it's pick 'em. I'm not a believer in Getafe. They can't score. It's been pretty obvious. I think their goalkeeper was interviewed the last 2 match days, talked about how well they played, and they lost both of them 1-0. Maybe I think both were fairly unlucky with 2 late goals scored. But it was Eibar, bottom of the league, and then Villarreal with a bunch of backups playing, which is better, but Eibar was not. So ultimately, they're in a position where Getafe can't score, and if this falls to pick them, they have to win on the road. And draw and then you get your money back. That's going to be hard for me to resist the Celta de Vigo, even if Iago Aspas is not playing. He was on the bench, I think maybe somewhat surprisingly this past weekend, but they had some good fortune, caught a couple penalties in the first half, which is kind of incredible to get 2 of them. But Celta de Vigo has never had trouble scoring goals. They've definitely had some rotation in their back line due to injuries, suspension, but they're really not that great defensively anyway. So I'm not sure it's that big of a loss. It certainly is. You want your starters and best players out there. But ultimately, I think Celta, if it falls down to pick them, that's probably going to be my pick. No pun intended. Next is Huisco hosting Athletic Club. Currently Huesca pick them, all the juice on their side. And I just don't understand why Huesca is getting so much respect. Now they're in the relegation fight, currently 1 point behind Valladolid, and that's really who they're trying to chase. I guess they could chase Alaves, and even Getafe is only 4 points ahead, but probably the closest thing to safety. 4 points is going to be tough to avenge with only 3 matches left. Huesca has been favored. Had a big win against Sociedad when they were getting a lot of respect. Got a lot of respect at Cadiz as a road favorite this past weekend and lost. Didn't really create much. Lost to Getafe at home as a pick'em. So I'm not a huge fan of how Huesca has been playing. They, I think, have been playing better than relegation football, but that's where they are. Their defense, I think, in an effort to try to score more goals, has been a lot more open, and that's been a big problem for them as they've been conceding a bunch of goals. And this was really after they changed managers. One of those where this appointment, whoever they appointed, hasn't really worked out necessarily, though the marketplaces like them, and I think based on their offense being better than I think a lot of their opponents. Athletic Club has been playing a ton of matches in kind of weird spaces, especially with their 2 Copa del Rey midweeks. But they've been playing a lot of younger players lately who have been, I think, a lot better than expected. They've been dealing with injuries. They're missing Iker Muniain, but they're also not playing like Iñaki Williams hasn't been playing. And if he starts, that'd be, I think, a really good thing for their side, as he offers so much pace and so much of a threat. Huesca is a favorite. If this keeps moving and climbs to a quarter, they have all the relegation pressure. Athletic Club is trying for Europe, but they're really pretty far out. And I think Athletic Club want to sit back and counter, and they're really the better side. So if they're a quarter goal underdog, it's going to be really hard for me to resist. Currently at a pick'em getting odds, it's still one that I'm interested in, but we'll see where this one goes. And I'm certainly not in a rush to play. I would love to see lineups first, but I don't know that anyone from Huesca missing will really change too much besides Rafa Mir, their forward, who, if he can walk, I'm sure he's playing, even if he can't. And then last one, Wednesday, Atletico Madrid hosting Sociedad, currently giving 3/4 a goal with a ton of juice. So this one's going to 1. So Atletico, Athletic Club right before Atletico is difficult. Anyway, Diego Simeone, the manager of Atletico Madrid, with a great 0-0 against Barcelona, basically didn't allow them to gain any points. And then Real Madrid dropping points after that was great for them as well. Sociedad has been dealing with injuries. Defense has been somewhat questionable, but they can score. They've got a lot of talent. They're looking like they're going to finish in that Europa League spot guaranteed. So they're pretty safe, but I think they're also fighting off Betis and Villarreal, who are within striking distance. So they have no reason really to give this match up. Atleti, I think, has been leaking oil for months now. It's incredible to me that they're still ahead, but I think they built up enough of the lead that they've been and been fortunate that Barcelona gave up 3 points against Granada with a 1-0 lead and lost 2-1. A lot more of those type of things going on with the other bigger clubs in Spain. But having to win by more than 1 goal is a big ask. I'm not sure that they can do it. I'm not sure that they can keep Sociedad off the scoreboard, and then they'll need 3 to win when this hits 1 goal. So Sociedad, they can cause a lot of problems. Their defense has gotten better with a little bit more health. They're certainly missing Mikel Merino in the middle as a central midfielder, but David Silva's been in and out of the lineup recently. Maybe he plays. Portu's been great. Oyarzabal, when he's not missing penalties, was really good at sticking the knife in the 93rd minute in stoppage time to crush my Elche bet on Friday. That extra day of rest is huge as well. With Atleti playing Saturday and Sociedad playing Friday night. So really excited for this one to hit +1, and it'll be on my card. Even probably at 3/4 of a goal, I think this is a very good opportunity for Real Sociedad to draw and make this title race even more difficult. It also looks like Atleti's hardest match left as they finish up at home for Osasuna and then on the road at Valladolid, who is probably going to be fighting relegation still at that point. But that's still kind of a sneaky, tough match, in my opinion, as well, as they defend really well and will be looking to counter. Moving to Thursday, Valladolid getting half of a goal at home for Villarreal. So Valladolid in the relegation spat, Villarreal trying to catch up for Europa League, though they have the Europa League final of this season that could potentially get them the Champions League. So not all is lost if they don't finish there. Still, they're going to be fighting for that. And La Liga coverage, they think that Gerard Moreno, the great striker, might not be playing much. They might rest him for that Champions League final. I'm not sure they're going to do that yet. They rested him this weekend because he played midweek, but I'm not sure that he's going to be missing any time when they could still be in the business of potentially qualifying for Europa League. Anyway, Valladolid they host Villarreal here, then they travel to Sociedad, and then they host Atletico Madrid. That's a really tough run in, and they're going to need to get some points because they're only 1 point ahead of the drop. They deserve better than this. They're a better team than this, but they give up a ton of late goals when they're in good positions to win matches that end in draws, and those 2 points dropped against Sevilla when a keeper scored, and then there's been more of those, and it's been a big problem for them. That's kind of why they sit where they are. Villarreal, their run in is Sevilla and then Real Madrid. Which is pretty tough. So that's going to be hard for Villarreal to get in there. And this is probably a match that they believe that they can win. They probably thought they would win against Celta Vigo this weekend, though, and they certainly took some liberties to rest players, I think, because they didn't want to play them back-to-back after Europa League, huge result. But still, as a half a goal favor on the road, this is probably one they've circled where they can get 3 points. They'll be pushing pretty hard, but Valladolid is used to sitting back in a shell and trying to defend. Now, most of the juice is on the Valladolid side. If this falls to a quarter, I'll be much less interested because they'll have to win to get the full unit. But I think a draw is a fairly likely result here for Valladolid. They're great at drawing matches. They'll probably be ahead 1-0 and give up a late goal to really keep them in the relegation spat that much longer. I think they deserve to be in La Liga, but it's not about that at this point. And I'm interested to see kind of what lineup Unai Emery throws out there for Villarreal. Next, second to last on Thursday is Eibar hosting Betis. Currently, Betis giving it's pick'em, but most of the juice on the Betis side. Pretty low number for Betis. They came off a match on Monday where Eibar played Sunday morning, I think first thing. So that's a good thing for Eibar with some extra legs and playing at home. They're in a position where they're league bottom and they're 2 points from safety, which is huge because they've won 2 straight and are playing better. But we'll be playing a high line. That's what Mendilibar does. And that's going to put them in a tough position where Betis, who hasn't looked great today, they got a miraculous victory late thanks to a very questionable indirect free kick in the box. Would love to see or hear that referee explain how he made that call, but I'll let that go for now. Eibar with a tough, so they host Betis, then they go to Valencia, who looks safe, so that might be a little bit easier. But then last match is hosting Barcelona, who's going to be fighting for the championship. That's probably a loss, so they're going to have to get some points. A draw is going to put them in a position where they'll need another draw just to match Valladolid. I'm not sure that's enough, but they're also a team that plays with a high line and are going to be pushing forward. So I'm not sure that this changes their game plan so much. I don't think that they're going to be in a position where they can be safe because Betis has plenty of offensive weapons and their issue is defense. But I'm not sure the high line pressuring the defense. I think that's going to be a lot of long balls from Betis to try to get the ball out of their defense because they are very, very mistake prone back there. Maybe that'll work with a high press for Eibar, but I'm not sure that it will. And at Pick'em, there's not much for me to do here unless this line keeps climbing, and Betis has been really struggling to win. Nabil Fekir was suspended for this match. Should probably be back in there, and that'll be huge for them in creating at center forward or the number 10 position. But we'll see what happens. It's currently a pick'em, and I'm not sure that I want to get too much involved with a number like that right now. And last but not least, Granada hosting Real Madrid. Granada getting a goal and a quarter fought back, really controlled today's match against Betis, and I thought were the better side, but ended up leaving with nothing. Pretty brutal. They're currently safe, though, and not really in a position to fight for Europa League after this loss. So they're potentially a beach team, and Real Madrid, this is really important. Second place, 2 points back, I believe, with the tiebreaker against Atleti. They finish at Granada, at Athletic Club San Mamés for Bilbao, and then hosting Villarreal. So not a very easy run-in for Real Madrid compared to Barcelona, who's playing Sisters of the Blind, essentially, though I think they all play the same schedule eventually. So whatever, it is what it is. But Real Madrid, with a really tough draw, could have been a victory, I think, fairly easily yesterday against Sevilla, but it wasn't. And they have to win all these matches. Their defense is great. They were really good. I think got a late goal to bust up Granada play against the spread if you took them the first time. Late goal, I think, after not doing too much for a while or not separating themselves really much at all. Currently, Real Madrid giving a goal in a quarter. If you're back in Granada, you need them to score because Real Madrid are probably going to get 2 at the very least against Granada. I think Granada can do that. They've showed they did that last year in one of the later matches of the season after lockdown, and I think came back from behind 2-0 to get a goal to cover the 1.25 or whatever that number was last season. We'll see what happens, but ultimately I think Granada is a team of fighters. They're very deep in the midfield. Soldado was suspended from this match. I think he'll probably be back and will start this one against Real Madrid, so that'll be helpful for them, certainly. But it's really hard to go against Real Madrid because they play great defense, and Benzema is going to score, going to get loose or at some point. And they also do really well at scoring off of corner kicks with Casemiro, or if Sergio Ramos plays, I'm not sure that he's going to do too much the rest of the season, but they're in the fight to win this La Liga, to go back to back, to repeat as champions. And they're going to be fighting and pushing forward. And it's really all about if you're going to back Granada here, getting a goal in a quarter. They're not going to keep a clean sheet, I don't think, against Real Madrid. Once that first goal goes in, the second one's going to be more likely to go in, and that's a big problem. So you got to really believe and trust in Granada to score. So we'll see what happens. But I think that's 37 minutes, a lot going through La Liga, which is going to be great midweek. I'm looking forward to that. I think you would be too. And then if you've got any questions or want me to go over anything before the matches start, per usual, I'll add plays about 15 minutes before the match starts. But follow me on Twitter, @thereal_G Warner. Subscribe to this. Make sure that I know that you're watching, so I can make sure that I keep doing these, because I'm actually planning to do some stuff for the Euro, as I think that'll be really exciting. Anyways, thanks for coming. That wraps us up here, and talk to you later.